So this question comes from someone on my YouTube channel. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing your name correctly, and I apologize if I'm totally botching it. Kiyoncé. So Kiyoncé's question is, I know not to compare your journey to anyone else's, but I'd like to know about how long you need to train for certain tricks, generally. 3 to 4 for training handsprings, 2 months for reverse spin, etc. So I absolutely want to answer this question because Kiyoncé, you are so not alone. That's something where I think you can ask just about any polar aerialist or just even athlete in general of how long will it take me to get to this point? So good news and bad news. Or depending on how you want to look at it, it's different for everyone. Okay. And yes, absolutely. You cannot compare your journey to everyone else. Because we're all different. It could be that one person, just using pole as an example, you might have one person, one student that they get their invert on spinning pole much more quickly, but they struggle with their shoulder mount. And then another student, it's the complete opposite. Their shoulder mount is, a struggle bus, and yet the spinning, or vice versa, the shoulder mount makes sense to them, and the spinning invert just totally baffles them. So our bodies are all different. That's one of the amazing things about pole is that, it's all shapes and sizes, but that also means different flexibilities, different coordination, different length of torso, arms, ratios, all of those things, different backgrounds and experiences. Maybe you did play a sport, maybe you didn't play a sport, which sport you played, whether you're right-handed, left-handed, the size of the pole, so many variables. So you are not alone in wondering this. The one thing I would say to you though is, and my recommendation to students is just be consistent. I think one of the common things I hear people say, my invert, or for example, my aerial invert, I'm struggling with my aerial invert. I said, well, how often do you do conditioning on your inverts? Crickets. Well, that would be my recommendation, consistency. So if, for example, a handspring is your focus, is I would focus on the drills that will build you toward that. If you're not sure what those are, I have a handspring workshop that I offer online. Link will be down below. Just going through the actions that we do to train that. For me, with my students, it's the shoulder engagement prep for handsprings. It's working on the apprentice to butterfly. It's working on that engagement, that bottom shoulder. That's the physical part of the strength, but there's also the mental part. So learning is not just the strength, it's also the neuromuscular coordination of your brain learning, because if your brain knows what it's doing, it can then fire the correct muscles. It's not just the strength. And there are some people that actually have the strength, but they don't know how to fire the correct muscles or in the correct sequence and timing that is needed for that action. So keep that in mind. It's the consistency. So if your goal is to train your invert, you should be doing invert conditioning at least once a week. And just like in everything, it's consistency. It's not necessarily about how often you do it. Like, I would rather that you train your conditioning for inverts or your handspring once a week consistently than you try to do it 5 days a week and then you overdo it and you injure yourself. So start with whatever your goal is, put it on a priority list that every single time you train once a week, you work on, it might be 10 minutes, it might be 15 minutes. Give yourself a number. For example, in my straps class, we have a conditioning list that we go through. And I tell everyone for these exercises, we do pull-ups, dips, we do skin the cats, we do meat hooks. I tell everyone, regardless of what level, I say your goal is to do 5. Okay? That might be your goal today. That might be your goal for the year. That might be your goal for the lifetime. Just give yourself a goal. That doesn't necessarily mean that you kill yourself just to reach that number and then you're dead for the rest of the day. But it's good to have something to push yourself towards. But of course, our bodies are all different. So, for example, your goal might be on an invert. I want to be able to do an aerial invert. Okay, so on your conditioning list, every single time you come into train, do 5 inverts on each side from standing, 5 inverts from each side from laying on the ground, working on candlesticks. If you are looking for some conditioning drills for your inverts, you can check out some of my other YouTube videos, and there's some training tutorials on how to improve your inverts. But consistency. So how long will it take for you to acquire a skill? How often do you work on it? One of my favorite things back when I was training contortion more consistently, and I'd taken a bit of a reprieve, life, whatever, change of schedule. I hadn't been down to work with my contortion coach in a while, and was in a session with her. And she turned to me and she said, Elizabeth, how's your chin stand lately? And I was like, not so good. She said, have you been working on it? No. Weird, right? So lo and behold, if you don't work on something, it doesn't improve. Okay. So if you have something that you're struggling with, oftentimes something that is a frustration to us, we procrastinate. We don't want to work on it because it's embarrassing. It's frustrating. we beat ourselves up over it. Instead of looking at it like that, of reminding yourself every time you do it of, oh, it's still not working, give yourself a number. Be like, okay, here's a plan of action. If my goal is to work on inverts, every single time I come into train, I'm going to do 5 inverts on each side. I don't care if it's a tuck. I don't care if it's a bent leg invert. I don't care if it's a straight leg invert. You give yourself a plan of attack and you start working towards it. So how long it will take, everyone is different. Enjoy the journey. Okay, there's so many things in pole. That's one of the great things. There's always something to work on. Whether you're flexible, whether you're not flexible, whether you're doing stuff aerially, low, whether you have a high pole, a spinning pole, a static pole, whether you're wearing pants, not wearing pants, there's always something. Okay, so focus on the things that you can work on. Give yourself a plan of attack. Make a list of the moves that you are trying to learn, and then make a list of the exercises that will help you work towards that move. And then put them on your schedule and start working on them once a week. Okay, if once a week after a while becomes easy and you're saying, I'm consistently doing once a week, I'm ready to up my game, great. Add in twice a week. I would say when you do increase your training time on a particular move, keep in mind repetition of a same move over and over. That's where oftentimes injuries can occur because of that repetition if it's done too much. Okay, so moderation. When you go to increase, for example, if you're working on inverts, you don't go from never working on inverts to doing them 7 days a week, 2 hours a day. Okay, start with 1 day a week. If that seems like it's good, great. Add a second day or increase the time. So gradual increases so that it gives your body time to adjust, adapt, and rise to the occasion. So best of luck for those of you that are maybe getting frustrated with your moves. Take progress photos, take progress pictures, give yourself a plan of attack, and start working towards it. So have fun with your training. Thank you so much for watching. If you have questions for future tutorials, please feel free to leave those below. If you have questions on this topic, I would definitely love to hear from you on that too. Please feel free to leave those as well. So thank you so much for watching.